Welcome back to the Digital Wealth Podcast and channel. We appreciate everybody for tuning in to the first episode. The first episode, just going over again what to expect from this channel and our mission on how we're going to just impact different outlooks and subjects and topics regarding AI, crypto, investing, trading theses, entrepreneurship, economics, and things like that. But this current episode today, we're going to be focusing on one topic, and that topic today is going to be AI revolution. So as we all know, we are currently entering a transition into this AI revolutionary technology that's affecting everything, or how we live our lives. It's affecting intelligence. And it's going to even affect our future outcomes on how we're going to live our lives as well when it comes to healthcare, transportation, education, a variety of different subjects and sectors on how it's going to affect humanity. So we're going to be diving deep into 4 segments today on how we're going to break down those specific segments and how they matter, why they matter, and how it's going to affect you and me. So let's dive into it. Every era has a revolutionary technology. So there's a saying, history always repeats itself. And I believe that statement to be true. So if you go back in human history and human evolution, man has always been about evolving and advancing. So in the beginning of man, we have always been trying to figure out a way how we can provide, protect, educate, and advance as a species. And we've always done it. And I believe we're always going to continue to do it because that's what makes us human. So in the beginning of man, when we discovered fire, how to use basic tools, we figured out how to provide shelter for us. We got smarter in figuring out specific theses and laws and nature and things like that can kind of help us navigate this way of life to advance as a species. And then you move forward to discover electricity and how to apply electricity to everyday way of living. I say this all the time when I'm talking to people, like, for example, like, so when you walk into like an apartment or a house and you just cut the light switch on, that back then was not normal. Like, people didn't have it so where you can just kind of just go into a house or your apartment or wherever you was living, your shelter, just cut on the light switch. We have taken that advancement of technology to the next level using the electricity. But fortunately, we was just living in an era where it's just so normal. We're blessed to just have this advanced technology to where we can kind of have lights and leverage this electricity to our advantage. So back then, they would light candles in the house and around the neighborhoods and the community to, give light when it was dark. But if you go back in human history, back then, they would think electricity was some form of witchcraft or something they've never seen before. So humans are always going to be skeptical when it comes to technology advancements, but our job is to be able to understand, okay, maybe this technology can help increase our way of living. So that was just a brief example of what I mean by kind of explaining and diving deep into like technology advancement. Then you can fast forward to the automotive industry, how the automotive industry affected everything within inside the economy. Humans were gathering on horses, riding, using horses as transportation to move and get around places and things like that. But when the automotive industry came about, when Henry Ford decided to take that next leap and to take that next step in human evolution and how this can affect everything on how we live in, was a tremendous way of brainstorming on how to problem solve it to increase quality of living for humanity. I mean, what a time to be living in around that time when Henry Ford discovered. So, and how he revolutionized it. And then the oil industry and then things like that. And then you fast forward to computers and how the computers shaped every way of living. My grandparents told me back then that when they first got their jobs, there really wasn't even no computers around. They were using paper and pencil to document specific wording and documents on how they was conducting business back then. But now, I mean, there's not a job that doesn't have a computer. So it's like understanding like that transformation. And I know it's like, it gets so normal, but it's not about understanding like, okay, I understand like we're dealing with it on an everyday basis now, but my thesis and what I'm trying to get people to understand and have a perspective on is how things transition and how things evolve. And not how only it evolves, it gets transitioned into everyday way of living. So let's fast forward again, the internet. So the .com era was a tremendous era to be living in because the .com era exposed how the internet can change when it comes to leveraging technology, when it comes to intelligence, and when it comes to information. So when the internet broke through, it was a place to where you can go get a form of information, understand some information at a fast speed. Something that's never happened before in human history. Back then, you can't just go in Google and just type in how to play the piano, or type in how do I cook this specific meal, or type in what's the population of a specific city. They didn't have that specific information back then. You would have to go in a book and go really do your homework on how to find it. But the internet made that accessible at a fast speed. That's a form of increasing intelligence, because intelligence is about being able to problem solve, and you're going to be able to problem solve at a fast, high frequency. We have high vibrational, high frequency internet capabilities and accessibility like that. Social media era, and then you have the smartphone era. So both of these eras pretty much change everything. Once smartphones hit the market on a perceived value from peer-to-peer everyday way of living, and once social media hit the marketplace as well, it changed how people have outlooks on things, and it made people be able to express themselves and communicate at a level we've never seen before. Fast forward to this AI revolution. So this is an example of how AI is going to help humanity as far as how this thing is going to advance. So now we're going to dive deep into the breakdown of AI development. So AI development has been around for a while. Computer scientists, computer engineers, computer mathematicians, they've been trying to figure out how to combine the hardware and the software to have a correlation with each other to spit out an output at a fast speed. So Jensen Huang, which is the CEO of NVIDIA, I read an article about how he was talking about how early in his career he was in video gaming. And he said they use a similar process with AI today, how they did to video gaming back then. So he was saying, back then they were writing code and they were trying to figure out how to pretty much have a communication with this computer to be able to give it an input, and it was going to be able to spit out an output. So he was saying that, for example, let's say we gave the computer a code and it was saying 1 + 2 =... So they programmed it to where, encoded to where, okay, this computer was receiving this input and now it has to go find the probabilities, match it up, and to spit out an output. So you put the input in 1 + 2 =, and the computer will give you back an output and say, now 1 + 2 = 3. So they figured out how to speed that up. And he said that made video game graphics a lot better, software a lot better, and the infrastructure behind it. So that's kind of how AI currently works today. For an example, so let's say you go in any LLM, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. All these are LLMs, large language models, these are the main AI models, what I mean when I say LLMs. So let's say you go into ChatGPT and just type in, what is the capital of the state of Tennessee? And when you put this input in, the AI is going to go scan the web. It's going to go match all the different probabilities and sites where you can kind of get the information and connect it and what's true and what's not true and connect it. And now it's going to spit out an output to you. So that same process I told you about the video games and how they did it back then, they've applied it to compute power. So now this thing can do this at its fast speed to where it can gather information and match up probabilities fast. So that's kind of how like AI development kind of started, and that's kind of like the process of how it works. So that's going to affect everything. That's going to affect how information is valued. It's going to affect how we can solve problems to healthcare related issues. It's going to affect how the money supply works in the market, because it's going to increase so much productivity, because now we have a form of intelligence that can problem solve at a fast speed. Now it's going to affect how the economy is infrastructure. So being able to be aware of this specific information, you can leverage this intelligence into what you got going on, being an entrepreneur, just being like an everyday individual, on how this thing can take your lifestyle and you can leverage this technology. It's almost giving you like a superpower. I mean, I remember early me starting a couple of my businesses back then. I mean, I would have to hire get somebody to do my website, my logo, my graphics. I had looking to some like an accounting options and trying to figure out how to make a business model by scratch and all these type of things. So now I got a superpower form of intelligence, and it can help me with all that. So it can't get no better than applying this to like being an entrepreneur or even an investor. Like I said, anything. So that's just a couple different ways of how the AI development is going to continue to increase and advance, and kind of just some history on how it started. A lot of people are skeptical and fear around the narratives of artificial intelligence and how AI is going to take their jobs and how it's bad for humanity and things like that, which all are agreeably concerning topics. But unfortunately, I feel like there's really nothing you could do to stop the evolution of what's going on, because governments are going to always push out specific narratives around topics and have it affected by what's going to go on into the marketplace, I feel like. And I feel like instead of having such a negative outlook, and it will have some negative outlooks on things, like, unemployment rate might, increase and things like that. But I feel like you could also be on the other side of that stick. So we're going to talk about being on the other side of that stick, because I always talk about that specific topic a lot with people. So let's say that unemployment rates do get concerning. And let's say you have somebody who my age and maybe a little younger or even a little older who's trying to navigate the job market, their careers. And let's just say hypothetically, they decide to be an entrepreneur or an investor or find a way to be able to partner with this technology. So I don't think people understand AI specifically is not going to take your job. It's not going to be AIs that's going to take your job. It's going to be people controlling the AI that's going to possibly take your jobs. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people who are using this technology at a very, very high level. I don't think people realize, like, even right now, what I'm going over is pretty generic information. This thing gets to a whole other level when I mean AI agents and how you can have workflows and automations. Now, that's a whole different subject. And we're going to dive a little bit into that and what I mean by that. So companies and entrepreneurs and businesses are using AI agents and AI employees and assistants to be able to have some production within their company and their process that humans could have did. It's making things cheaper for them. They don't have to pay anybody $60,000 to $80,000 a year and then give out benefits when they can just literally have some programmed AI agents to where these things can perform tasks that humans can do, make it more efficient. They don't call out of work. They don't call in sick, which is affecting on how the job market is going to be distributed. So, like I said, I agree that it's definitely going to have an effect on the economy, but your job is to figure out how to be on the opposite side of that stick. How can I set up these AI agents? How can I use this AI technology and use it to my advantage so where I can even just start like a little side business to where I can have this thing bringing me income, and I'm using this technology to make income on the internet to where I can kind of sustain myself. So, because I use it on an everyday basis. My family, they always joke with me and say I'm gonna turn into a cyborg or something, because I'm always interacting with my AI agents and my AI workflows and stuff like that. I've literally put all of my businesses into an AI systematic approach to where now these AI agents have workflows automation to where I can just kind of just sit back and operate these agents and they can kind of work for me. That's where the future is headed. I don't think people realize it yet, and I know it's still kind of early. It's not early to the companies and the businesses who making money. They already doing it. We're just kind of catching on a little late. Another thing is people think it's a huge technical learning curve, but it's really not. And we're just talking about the digital side of software. We haven't even dived deep into the hardware side and the physical side of the productivity. And what I mean by that is the topic on robotics. I mean, robotics is going to shape everything as we know it. I mean, we already got self-driving cars now. I mean, that's going to just continue to just increase. And then when humanoids drop officially, which they're already here, they just haven't just put it out in the marketplace yet, which is coming soon. So robotics is going to shape everything. Humanoids are going to be in restaurants, hotels. There's really not going to be too many places where you walk into and there's not going to be a robot. They're going to be in homes conducting services in the house. Like, there's going to be a overly supply of goods and services on the digital side of AI and the physical side of AI. So, like I said, I'm just trying to get people's minds to kind of open up and just be aware and be conscious of what's going on, because I still feel like we kind of behind on what agenda that they're pushing into the economy. And like I said, you have a choice. You could adopt it and learn it and be able to apply it to your life, or you could be on the other side of that stick and, be against it, which is fine as well, but it's not about not liking it. I understand people don't like it. You got people who still don't like the internet and social media. I get that. But at the end of the day, they still use it in some way, form, or fashion. So it's like, my job is to just express this outlook and opinion of the topic so you can kind of have an open mind to it. preparing for an AI first future, I'm going to just dive into my specific outlooks on it, on how you can use it. I would start, depending on where you are in your learning curve and how far along are you with it, I would just start by downloading a couple of the LLMs, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, Grok. Not just downloading one. I know everybody has ChatGPT. I know everybody uses it, and a lot of people just got the free version. I would suggest you get the paid version so you can kind of get more of the higher end quality of it. But download the LLMs, use all of the LLMs, learn them, ask it questions, use it to get smarter, use it in your career, use it in your businesses, brainstorm with it, and just learn how to just conduct yourself to where you can kind of have a relationship with this model, to where you can kind of, it understands you and you understand it, to where you guys can work together to where you can increase what you got going on individually. So that would be the first step I would suggest. And then from there, if you're trying to really kind of dive deep into like, all right, I want to set up a whole digital AI infrastructure, as far as I want to build something similar to how these other architects, these digital architects are doing. And I want to have a whole operating system on AI agents and AI employees and assistants. And I want to have this doing that, this workflow doing this, and this automation here. I mean, if you wanted to dive into that framework of it, I would suggest you first start, like I said, with the LLMs, learning all the LLMs, then transition into so understanding what an agent is. So an agent is an AI assistant that can actually perform tasks on your behalf on the internet. So everybody's familiar with, Claude Code Word and Perplexity Computer and things like that, which these models with inside those programmers of these models, what I'm talking about specifically, you can go in and these models can actually perform things on your behalf. Like you can go on your computer, your browser, open this up, move this file here and do things like that. And the next step I would say after that would be probably really understand, okay, have an LLM model operate as your brain hub. Let's say you want to have an LLM, you want to have your own personal AI agent. So where you tell this to go do this and now this AI is running other AIs. So what I mean by that is it's an operating system. So for example, we're going to kind of go over like specifics on how I operate. So I have a personal AI that I coded and I put memory to this AI. I have LLM connected to it and it's operating, and I have four different businesses that I'm running, and my current LLM and my current model, my own AI, is connected all to this operating system. And now he's able to communicate with those other AIs, and those AIs are able to perform like minor miscellaneous tasks, able to free me up some so I can focus on other tasks to where I can get done within my business. And I'm going to say this as well. So a lot of people are saying, like, I've been hearing a lot of topics on the internet and on social media about how, like, and I 100% agree with this, that you don't want to literally rely on the AIs for everything, because that's not what you want to do either. I'm not saying just, hey, give these things everything you know about yourself or about the business and just let it and just freeball. I'm not saying that either. I'm saying basically you want to set these AI automations and these AI agents so to where it can perform all these minor tasks so you can focus on the bigger stuff. But you should be getting smart just how AI is getting smart. They're getting smarter faster. But like I said, I'm always currently reading books, educating myself on how I can advance my learning curve and on how I can get smarter while I'm still developing my AI agents. So that's what I mean by, like, as far as being able to combine the artificial intelligence and man and use it as like a superpower. Like I said, you don't want to just rely on either. You want to combine it somehow. So that's the future. And I will just suggest, like, when the humanoids and all that stuff kind of coming to fruition as far as on an everyday basis, which, like I said, is coming pretty soon. It might even hit before 2030. But you want to just kind of just conduct everything in that type of fashion, especially being an entrepreneur. Because if you go look, all of the top tech companies, all of the top fintech, finance, whatever big companies you want to go look into industries, they'll tell you when it comes to agentic and autonomous businesses, the people who have agentic and autonomous business, they're going to run laps around people who don't. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's about speed. How fast can you get things done? How efficient can you get it done compared to your competitors? So that's just something to think about. Yeah. So just like I said, just preparing for that way of living as far as the adoption of agentic and autonomous infrastructures and understanding of how it works. So like I said, go do your homework on it, go study up on it, go do some research. If you want to take that next step, that's what I would suggest. I hope I was able to give some pretty informative information regarding AI revolution. And again, these are my personal opinionated topics, but I do a lot of research and I'm studying what the top companies, top investors on where their mindset is. And honestly, I mean, from what I've specifically just referenced in this current video, that I mean, these are things that they're saying, and they're even saying things that even are at a higher and in-depth level to where they're thinking like, I mean, it's going to change everything to where it's going to be so much products and services produced that it's going to get to a place to where we might get put on, universal income to where, because the AI is going to pretty much be doing everything. But that's some of their thesis. But like I said, it's a negative and positive outlook on it, just depending on where the world's going. But like I said, my job is just to come here and just give value and just kind of help people have an open mind on things and kind of just, get some inside information on things that I'm studying upon and things like that. So for anybody who's interested in kind of diving deeper into the AI agents and the LLMs and how to schedule workflows and automations, use voice agents, connect API keys, and really make their business really agentic and autonomous to where they can kind of just have everything running on its own, and you got to kind of just sit back and just be the operator. You can dive deep into how we're going to go over things within our Discord. So we're going to kind of dive deep into like code, and because now you don't have to know how to code anymore as far as the generic stuff. So like you can kind of just go in with these agents. You can tell it, hey, make this website, make this application. It'll do it in real time and using code. So these computers know how to understand English now, plain English. You can go in and be like, hey, literally, build me out a website, build me out an application, build me out a landing page, and it'll do it in seconds to minutes. And it'll spit out whatever your thoughts is on it, your creativity, just give it the input on it, off prompts and things like that. And you can have a literal application, a website built off your idea and thesis. So prompting, engineering and things like that, and vibe coding is something we're going to definitely dive more in depth, specific topics correlated with that on further episodes. This, like I said, this episode was just more so of understanding AI revolution and understand how it works, where it's headed, and things like that. So the more in-depth stuff and how we literally break it down is going to be inside the Discord. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will be having future guests on here soon. So be on the lookout for that. And we appreciate the audience we're building, and thank you guys for tuning in.